4, 3, 2.
One, and we're live with Miami's Community News, and our guest and friend is David Singer. He's a friend. He's a friend. He's a friend. He's a friend. David Singer.
He's a friend.
He's a friend.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Can you
that's
hear me now?
interesting. Yeah.
And I'm Michael Miller, and so we're really delighted that you're here. You've been a city councilman, village councilman in Palmetto Bay for 7 years. You're running for re-election, and people have called you all sorts of things. So why don't we share? We'll just get it out of the way. We'll lay it on the table. What are some of the terms that people use to describe you?
Okay, first I want to thank you for the endorsement. I want to thank Community Newspaper for the endorsement. And I just want you to know one thing. Let me tell you one thing. You ready? You are 100% correct in what you wrote about me. Okay?
Oh, my goodness.
And I am not perfect. So there you go.
There you
go. There
So,
you go. But thank you. Anyway,
you know when a woman marries a man and the man marries a woman, they say, "Don't worry, they're not okay today, but I'll get them to change. It'll be perfect." 20 years later, you go, "No, it's the way it is."
I am the way I am. I'm trying to learn every day, which I'm sure everybody, likes and should do. So I can improve my behavior somewhat.
So today you're reserved. All right?
I'm reserved, absolutely. So let's start. Okay, so I got a great email that I want to read to everybody from the Palmetto Bay Neighborhoods Alliance, and they understand that I'm reading this, so it's not out of turn. It's called Negative Campaigning 2. As political campaigns reach their conclusions, the nastiness and negative rhetoric continues. At PBNA does not support negative campaigning, regardless of the communication method, nor do we endorse candidates. We recently communicated about a well-funded PAC mailer that smear candidates and Palmetto Bay officials as well. The abundance of negativity in Palmetto Bay politics has attracted the attention of not only residents, but neighboring villages and print media as well. Another source of campaign-related information we receive comes from electronic media, including blogs, Facebook, and email blasts. Every person or group has a right to express and communicate their opinions. Facts used to support or undermine positions or candidate can be positive or negative. Statements that cannot be backed up are opinions and should be treated as such. As a PAC mailers, it comes down to whether you trust the information being disseminated, the source, and the ability to separate fact from opinion. If you do not like or trust information or source, you can contact the source to challenge the information, delete, or unsubscribe. I think we would all prefer to see recommendations from all sources on candidate attributes and how those would benefit Palmetto Bay and its residents. PBNA. Okay, it's a group that's
okay. Before you get on, I want to say hi to Matt Murray. Thanks for protecting horse country. Scott Miller says we will see you on opening day at the Palmetto Bay Farmers Market, November 14th, Saturday at 8 o'clock.
I'll be there with the scissors.
Okay.
So anyway, so I guess the low of the lows that I've experienced during this election cycle, and there have been lows, lower than lows, is when Steve Cody was making a video making fun and mocking my 12-year-old son. I think that is definitely it's beyond belief that somebody would make fun of my son. He doesn't know my son. He doesn't live with my son. I think it's absolutely disgusting that he would do that during an election cycle.
As emotional as the issue it is, some people would say, well, he was in a video that you created. Some people say, well, that invited your sons into the political arena. Mm-hmm. And what do you say about that?
It still does not give you permission to attack my son. If you want to attack anybody, you can attack that I put him in the video. But to sit there and attack my son individually is just beyond
people
belief.
want to know what occurred when you say attacked. Explain that.
He mocked him by basically sounding like a 12-year-old, and he used his name. And some other stuff I just don't want to get into. I mean, it's nobody running for office should actually bring in somebody's 12-year-old son into the election cycle.
And you make a really good point. You as a parent can bring them in, but that doesn't therefore give permission to anybody else to say that.
Correct.
Just like there's relationships that occur between a man and a wife, and you can say it to each other, but you wouldn't dare ask somebody else or want somebody else.
I mean, this is actually an election video that he sent out to people. I mean, it just shows what kind of character he has. The other low of the lows, and after this we'll stop talking about the lows, is when Shelley Stanzik and Gary Pastorelli sent out an email saying that I hate women. I mean, that's just unfathomable that they would actually send out an email like that. My sisters were so upset that both of them sent responses to Gary saying, I can't believe that you'd actually get down to that death. And they basically just called him out because my sisters and my mom basically raised me. So they know, they know the truth. And it's unacceptable that they do that.
And for whatever the reasons were, I think there was a connection because the people that are on the council happen to be men and women, all right? And that so there was complaints, if you will, that you filed against other council members. They happen to be women. If it would have happened to be men, would the people say, "Oh, you hate men"? All right? And along the same line, I saw in one of the emails, I think it was from.
Let me interrupt you. The losers, or the victims, because I'm not a victim in this, but the victims of this are basically the residents. When you get down to this kind of rhetoric, I mean, anybody who would want to run, and we want to engage people to come into Palmetto Bay politics. When they see this kind of behavior, they're going to say, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be attacked like this. I mean, so what we do is we have this population of people that we want to engage in the politics because more the better. And they're like, why would I want to put up with something like this? So those are the victims, and those are the losers, are the residents of Palmetto Bay, because they don't get active because they're afraid of getting attacked.
One of the things I saw over the weekend on social media was a term called keyboard warriors. I'd never heard that before. So if you were going to interpret what that meant, what do you think it means?
Well, I think it's, there's a lot of attacking on social media. There's a lot of attacking. I've been attacked. Everybody who I've talked to said this is the worst they've ever seen.
Dozens of times.
Dozens of times, more than dozens of times. So I feel like I need to defend myself, on Facebook, and everybody goes, why are you even doing that? Don't even feed them. And so keyboard warriors, I think, means, when somebody's attacking me, I got to immediately get on Facebook and say, you're wrong, this is improper, and give them specifics, about how wrong it is and why I think it's wrong. So it goes back and forth and back and forth. And I just get suckered into that all the time because I try to defend myself and my position and my what I believe is my ethics. So it's just, I think it's the back and forth and back and forth.
So I just want to know who's feeding the sharks. As you throw a piece of meat out and you see what happens and people go after it. And then when somebody responds, then other people get a little crazy about it. I saw one of the newsletters that claimed it, and there he is again, he sued the city again. What they failed to put in that newsletter, guys, was that he won that lawsuit against the city, all right, where the city needed to produce some public documents. So you're not getting credit for that.
It's the first lawsuit ever in Palmetto Bay's history, Pinecrest history, and I think Village of Cutler Bay's history, that somebody's had to sue to get public information.
Remember, maybe 2 months ago, we were saying, let's get, the village needs to be more transparent. Everything should be posted on the website, and a lot of things weren't. Why isn't it up? Why isn't it up? This, by virtue that you had to sue, goes to prove to me that there is this plan to deny people access to public documents. Clearly, all right, the people that were involved, all right, should have, as soon as you ask, given you the public documents. But for whatever reasons, they like jerking you around, and maybe it was to see what you would do. And it was a pity you had to go to court, spend your time. The city had to spend their time and the money. That's the citizens. It's not the city. It's each citizen had to pay because the city staff and the mayor in this case didn't produce the documents that.
Oh, it's even worse.
Wanted.
I asked for a document that was a resolution that I actually voted on a month ago, and I just finally got it today. I mean, you would think a resolution would automatically be placed on, as soon as it's signed, would be automatically placed on the village website. There's nothing on the village website anymore, except for, PR.
Well, here's one of the things that we hope happen is that with the political chaos that's going on now, next Wednesday, when we wake up in the morning, hopefully whoever is there in the presidential mode in the village, they'll be there for the next 4 years, in some cases 2 years. And I think that everybody will be a little bit calmer at that point. But at the end of the day, and sometimes you've been called, people would interpret some of your behavior as bullying. Well, you know what, folks, I would rather have somebody that was aggressive, all right, than somebody that was a mouse, because you might be able to tame down the person that's aggressive, but to get somebody that's a Minnie Mouse or Mickey Mouse and get them to speak up is very, very difficult. And so, first of all, my hat's off to you, for being able to make this case, this legal case, public, because I think you should do that. So all those people that were putting you down for so long, all right, that you proved yourself right with that.
It was so right. I mean, the judge gave him 24 hours. I mean, if it wasn't that right, the judge wouldn't have given him 24 hours to turn over the documentation to me.
People fail to understand how important public documents are, all right? And when we ask for public documents, when we ask for them, we usually get them right away, and we've had to pursue it sometimes for a while. They have a certain period of time to produce it. But in this case, in a small city, they jerked you around, and maybe it was to see what you would do. Now, one of the things that has happened in Palmetto Bay, and in many cities, there's so many different sides. All right, there's so many different people that want other folks in office, and I have noticed. I went through Palmetto Bay yesterday. As a matter of fact, I had a pedicure over there next to Publix on 144th.
Sure wasn't a manicure?
Well, no, I chewed those. All right, all right, and it was, and so I drove around town looking for your signs.
Oh yeah, my signs have all been stolen.
All right, it was incredible.
I had put out over 250 signs, and I'd be shocked if there were 100 signs left. They've all been stolen, every single one of them.
Conspicuously absent.
Oh no, it's crazy, isn't it?
I'm going around.
I mean, that's how desperate people get. Is they want to start going on private property and stealing signs.
So let me say it right. So somebody takes signs, all right, that are not theirs.
And by the way, it's not Village of Palmetto Bay, because I went to the Village of Palmetto Bay. I go, have you guys taken any of my signs? Because if you have, and if they've been placed illegally or whatever by my son's placed the signs out there, can you let me know and I'll come pick it up, because usually all those signs are put in a dumpster area, right? And they go, no, we got like 3 or 4 of your signs. And I go, okay, well, there's 3 or 4 of 125 that are missing.
So somebody taking a sign out of not
second
their
degree
property,
misdemeanor, by the way.
All right, it's similar to people going around to stores and telling stores you shouldn't have those signs in there. Hey guys, everybody, just speak your piece, but that does not include picking up signs that are not yours. If you think they are improperly placed, then call the authorities and have the property owner, all right, say you need to do something about this. That's the way to do it. All right, I would never do that.
Like I said, it's a second degree misdemeanor.
So whoever's doing it, maybe what you want to do is return all the signs, put them into place, because maybe if he loses this time, maybe for next time in 2 more years you could use the same signs. What do you think?
No. I'm good.
All right. So John Henry wants to add in here, this is simply all crafted to deflect the facts away from how bad the village is doing.
The village is in bad shape.
All right. Jerry Johnson, the current majority council and the past mayor hate this crusader. I guess that's you. Councilman Signal truly cares about the village, review his resolutions, ordinance. Our village will be blessed to re-elect Councilman Signal.
Thank you.
All right.
And by the way, when I first met Jerry, just to let you know, he didn't particularly care for me.
All right.
And
that's not hard to understand.
Yeah, I know. And so the more and more information I gave him, and these are original documentation, right? I don't make stuff up. Everything that I say, I have original documentation for. Everybody knows that. So I started showing him how everything was working, and he finally, came to actually appreciate me being on the council.
So let's talk about, and people use this against you, that you and Jean Flynn, and what was the other councilwoman's name who retired?
Larissa.
Right. That you and Ed orchestrated the purchase of this property, all right, of the 1 acre piece of property where the charter school was going to go. All right? And some people say, well, the way the city wound up with it was incorrect. But at the end of the day, from what I understand, the city was considering selling it back to the guy. Whatever size
I brought forth, and we talked about this last time I was here, I brought forth a resolution to sell back the land, and we had the original seller, which is now the purchaser, would want to be the purchaser, who was all ready to go. He was ready to pull the trigger. And the village has never sold back the land.
So if this council here was so upset with it, they could have sold it back.
Yeah, absolutely. In a second.
Okay. By the way, Gene Flynn says he's got nothing right now. I don't believe that for a second. Walter Prio, Doral Signs. Where's my sign for? Where is it? I got it.
By the way, Gene wants to know when he's going to the next time you're going to have him on the program.
Who? Walter?
No, Gene.
Gene.
Yeah.
Do I have Walter's sign somewhere?
I think it's in the back.
Oh, all right, Walter. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, if you need signs, Doral Signs, fast signs in Doral / Miami. Walter, thank you for helping us out. Matt Murray again, Daisy, Bill.
That's all, folks.
Okay, so I want to know, is Gene going to run again? I do want to remind our good friend Gene, the last time he ran, the current mayor kicked his butt, all right? 62% she got, right?
Yes.
More or less, right? That's a big win. Like I can see some of those people out there, yeah. All right. Well, what I want everybody to look at is if you were the one that brought the resolution, 2 other people also voted for
Correct.
it, right? And now when you said
Patrick, and let's say who it was. It was Patrick, and it was John. They voted for it, and the people that were having the biggest fit about buying the land was Marcia Matson and I believe Karen Cunningham. They used it in their election as a weapon against Gene, and then they suddenly turn around and they don't want to sell the land back. Hypocritical in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
So John Dubois, current vice mayor,
yes,
right, vice mayor, still vice
Correct.
mayor, yeah, of Palmetto Bay, was here last week. He's pretty bright, so when he's having this conversation with me very methodically, he goes to John, I'm sorry, it's way above my head. Okay? So I'm dealing more on an emotional level, and so all I know is, listen, if I bought something and I was not happy with it, and the guy offered to buy it back,
no, you can return. You buy a pair of shoes, you don't like them, you return them. Right?
Like Amazon,
that's
you just
exactly what it is. You just send it back. Yeah.
All right. So I see you're in a much better mood today.
I'm in a pretty good mood. Yes.
Why?
Because I'm speaking to you.
Oh, Jesus. All right. So listen, in a week and a half, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I hope you all are voting for the candidate you think is going to be appropriate for you. Early voting is up through.
Michael said that he'd vote for me if he lived in Palmetto Bay.
I would.
Yes.
I would. All right. And it has nothing to do with the other person. Listen, I sort of get you, not all the way, but I sort of get it. And I know it's the way you are. Like if somebody said to me, Michael, I want you to be pissed off all the time. I go, I can't do that. All right?
I'm not let me tell you, I'm not pissed off all the time. I'd rather be joking with you than be serious. Anybody who knew me when I was going through high school used to call me the class clown. I mean, anybody who knew me.
Oh, good. I can
okay?
see that. I can see that in the.
Yeah, it'll be the next thing. So honestly, I'd rather be joking around. Any of my personal friends who know me can't believe that I'm serious any of the time unless I'm at work and I'm working, doing what I do.
Yeah, and we can see politics all over the country. Each ad is sort of like somebody else got a good shot, and then the other person is going to have a shot,
yes.
And it gets nasty.
It's unfortunate, right? And it's unfortunate for not only for our residents but all over the United States that people take this First Amendment right to the extreme and are able to use it as a weapon during when they're politicking.
One of the things that we are very fortunate to in the communication business, especially in a pretty big county, is we are a little bit more accustomed to this because there are races in every city that we're involved in most of the cities and most of the areas. So whatever the shenanigans that are going down there, they may think that it's unique. It's not unique.
Yeah,
right?
but it's character assassination.
Yes.
So I mean, even when the person loses, they still or wins, they still have to carry that on their back, right? So people think, oh, I can say whatever I want to say because it's my First Amendment right, but people have to carry that with them. Okay, and it's really it's not moral and it's not ethical to go to that extreme.
Yeah. And when we see on the national stage how people on all the different sides are really angry with each other, and just hold on to your britches on November 3rd and the 4th, all right? Because who knows what's really going to happen? But everybody should just be calm, all right? And it's all going to be good. And remember that on the 4th, all right, it is what it is, all right? And you're either going to be in office or you're not, all right? You're going to still be neighbors to the other people that are out there. And don't do things that you're going to regret down the road, all right? And so when it gets to a personal attack, and it doesn't matter who started, it takes 2 to tango, all right, with that. That's on both sides. Because it does carry with you. I want to tell you what Facebook did in as far as warning us. A friend of Grant gets come over here, and Grant says, "Yeah, how much you weighing right now?" Guy says 220. Grant says, "No, you don't. Greg goes and gets the scale, brings it in. He says, well, 242, 220, it's the same thing. We got a ticket, a warning from Facebook that said we were body shaming this guy. Just that little tiny thing. All right, so imagine all these barbs that are going back and forth between candidates. It's not as though it's a light switch. So that's stuff that's in the back of your head. You know, everybody should just be calm. That includes you, includes Steve, and all those other people that are shooting at each other. All right. So I hope the people in Palmetto Bay get what you deserve. All right, get what you want. All right, and everybody stays calm and stay away from each other. All right, so let it calm down. So go ahead. You got 5 minutes.
I don't know what else you want to talk about. You want to talk about my background? Let's talk about me for a second,
idea.
Right? I was basically born and raised in Palmetto Bay. Went to Carr Reef Elementary School. Went to Palmetto Junior High School. Went to Palmetto Senior High School. I went to Southwood for a half a semester. So I'm basically, a homeboy, and I think that's one of the reasons that I care so much about the village, is I really was raised and grew up.
Hey, Stacy, this is not your bulletin board. Don't call us again. Stay off, all right? I don't like you saying that stuff. Just stay off, all right? Thank you. So there.
Thank you. So honestly, I mean, that's why I care so much about this place, or Palmetto Bay, because I was basically, I grew up off 146th Street and 79th. Now I live on 154th and 80th. I mean, it really means 84th. It really means a lot to me. And I want to do what's best for Palmetto Bay, not what's best for 10 individual people, but what's best for the majority of residents.
So, at some point, you decided to go off to college?
I went to, what's funny is somebody asked me the other day, they go, well, what sports did you play? And there used to be a skating rink called Kendall Skating Center. Do you remember that?
Sure.
Across the street from the falls? And I actually skated, one of my sports was I skated all over Florida, speed skating. And
what do you mean?
Speed skating, you know how they have
in
ice
rings.
Yeah, in the rinks. All over. I played a little bit baseball, but mostly I spent a lot of time at different skating rinks throughout the state of Florida speed skating. My legs used to be really big and my upper body used to be really small, and it's kind of like now I just look like a light bulb. It's interesting what happens.
I can see the ads now.
It's
I can
interesting.
see the ads now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting what happens. I went off to Florida State, got a marketing degree. Then I came back down here, and we were in, I guess, one of our recessions, and I decided to go back and work in public accounting. So while I was working in public accounting, I got my
Did
CPA
you have
license.
any inclination before that? I like numbers. Or is that
No,
or is
you
it
know
about
how
that?
you know how it happened is my next door neighbor was an individual called Larry Sherry. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but he was the head of an accounting firm called Kenneth Leventhal. And I'm sitting there talking to him. I really had a lot of respect for the man. And he goes, "Well, why don't you go get your accounting degree, and you can come to work for me." And I go, "Okay, that's a great idea, right?" Because I was always good.
Harebrained idea, folks.
I was always really good at talking to people, but my math skills weren't that great, so I figured I'd bring
So I
up my
should
math
go to you and get
skills.
my tax
I'd bring
notes?
up my math skills, and go to work in public accounting. So I worked in public accounting, and I did some auditing and some fraud.
So you already had your 4-year degree.
Already had my
And
4-year.
and how long is that?
It was the CPA. The accounting degree was another 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then
And I started my master's at FIU, but I was just so burnt on college that I just with like 15 hours left or whatever, 18 hours left, I basically said I'm just going to go to work.
So you became a CPA.
Correct.
And then you went to work.
Yeah, I went to work.
All right.
Yeah, I've been basically working since I've been 14.
Okay. So, sometimes it makes you go batty. And speaking of bats,
Yeah.
let's hear about your bats at your house.
I haven't seen my bats in a while. I have to go back out there at 7 o'clock to make sure they're still there.
So, we just speaking of that's a mammal, but it
Yeah.
flies. So we got a picture of a osprey up on Sunset Drive and 83rd Street. Somebody sends a picture, so I send it to somebody that I know lives by. He says, "Michael, I know that osprey very much. He eats my fish. He flies down.
Yeah, really?
And, yeah, they can pick up 25 pounds, and so they're getting his big fish, his koi.
I have a koi pond. Well, the koi happened to slip away into death, but I had a koi pond until about 3 months ago. we kept our screen over it. We took the screen down away from the pool area, but we kept the screen over the koi pond just so kois are expensive. You can buy a koi that's $3,500. Some of the kois
Yes.
are worth more than dogs.
So, wow. Okay.
Yeah, read that last one, Jerry Johnson.
Jerry Johnson reminds me of the P.T. Barnum quote, no one ever made a difference by being like everybody else. All right? If everybody says yes, all right, what's your purpose
It would be a terrible.
of being there?
It would be a terrible world.
Yes. All right.
It would be an awful world if everybody was like you, or everybody was like me. It would be awful.
I got an
Absolutely
idea
awful.
for some of the commenters up there. Why don't you make a difference instead of trying to put down people? When you make a difference, all right, you'll feel better about yourself. All right. All right. Including the last commenter. All right. So many haters out there. All right. Why don't you just cool your jets down and try to do something useful?
Oh, you mean the individual who went to different stores and threatening them
Yeah.
to pull down signs that I had up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's always nice, right?
what are some things you'd like to try to get done should the people in Palmetto Bay re-elect you?
I really, we kind of talked about this. I really would like to put another moratorium in as far as construction in the DUV.
I'm glad you brought that because some people say, "Oh, you're pro this, you're pro that," as far as
Yeah,
apartments and construction.
I'm the most anti-development person on the council.
So why?
Well,
do
apartment-wise, yeah.
all right. So that's from a factual point.
Yeah,
That's on
that's
the record.
on the
they
record.
can go look that up.
If you look at my voting, I've made an apartment complex that they were going to build there, put more parking in by 100 parking spaces because I didn't think there was enough parking there. Everybody else was ready to give them permission to build, but I said, look, you can't have parking. There's a medical facility there that I said, okay, if you want to build a medical facility, you have to sit there and pay for a bus full time. To circulate throughout Palmetto Bay and bring patients in, and it was knocked down by a council member to an eighth of the reimbursement. I wanted 100% reimbursement. It was knocked down to 1/8 of reimbursement of what the bus would cost. So I know because I've been in the business what's appropriate and what's not. So it's.
So you want to put a moratorium on there. What are
Yeah.
some of the other things that you'd like to?
We got to work on traffic. There's a couple of things. Traffic and revising the building code for the DUV are the two biggest issues. The FPNO property is another one of the big issues because we are in Burt J. Harris litigation right now. So we need to figure out a way to work with them so we don't get a $21 million judgment.
So there were people that were complain about you because you're crying Burt Harris, Burt Harris, Burt Harris. All right, but the reality is,
oh yeah, we are in litigation.
all right.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
But some people say, oh, you shouldn't have been talking about it. Well, that's the way it is. All right.
Well, don't you think that people should be notified that we might be in Burt J. Harris if depending upon the way that the council votes, because if they're not, there's no transparency, right? So I've been saying all along, there's no transparency. So I want them to know that there's a potential Burt J. Harris Act, and it could cost the Village of Palmetto Bay $21 million, or $10 million, or $5 million.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because there were some public documents that I was watching one of the meetings, and there was a discussion that it seemed to be that the city, a majority of the commission, was going to have a conversation starting at 143 units on that property, and they wanted 170. Where did the 140 come? Where did that number come from?
That came from the village attorney going around and asking the different council members how many units that they'd approve, basically.
So
there was a consensus by council members that the 148 was the number.
So he didn't just make up that
No,
number.
he did not make up that
He didn't
number.
like throw a dart at this.
No, he talked to Karen, he talked to Marcia, he talked to me, he talked to Patrick, he talked to John.
So the citizens that say, oh, that was all you, the 140. No.
No.
All right. And that night, it looks like the council went back on the conversation they
Correct.
each had individually with
Absolutely.
the city attorney
Yes.
and say, hey, I don't know where it came from. We don't. It's off.
Correct.
Do I have that right?
Yeah.
All right.
For the most part.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about 136th Street on the sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
I understand there's a meeting coming up.
There should be a meeting coming up tomorrow. It's not publicized once again, but there's a meeting coming up between the Miami-Dade County and the mayor and the architect tomorrow, I believe, in front of the elementary school.
Howard Drive Elementary.
Correct.
5th and 6th grade, man.
Really?
Yeah. You.
Yeah, there you go.
So what about the
Car Reef
homeowners?
was a much better school than
What
that,
was?
right? Car Reef Elementary was.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. No, but
I'm way younger than you, so I didn't know that yet.
But there's I think the meeting will be held tomorrow. Of course, none of the residents on 136th Street were notified of the meeting. So once again, they're sitting there talking about what's going to happen with the architect and with the Miami-Dade County and with the mayor. Okay, nobody on the council was notified. I was notified through a resident. Okay, the residents weren't notified. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-boggling that all this stuff is being done without residents knowing.
Oh, she said, all right. So that meeting may take place. All right?
Correct.
All right. So
I'll be there.
Again, so the people of Palmetto Bay on 136th Street and the affected areas should know about it and should show up for that meeting and voice their opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless they change the meeting again. The meeting was supposed to be this morning, and I drove by and there was no meeting.
Okay. So again, when I was listening to the Zoom meeting with the number of units going on that was being proposed by Luxcom and then the city, I saw the figures 140 or 170. And I had heard that for a couple months that
Look,
number
there's a
was being
huge
bounced around.
issue with Luxcom building either a 148 or 170 or 179 or 200. The problem is the access in and out of there. So whatever they build, when they get final approval, they're going to have to figure out how to get cars in and out of the property. I personally would rather have single-family homes there than a hospital. I think they're probably weighing both. Single-family homes will actually, what they're going to build are supposedly $2-3 million homes. That will enhance everybody's property values in the area, I believe. But they have an access problem.
Right. So come November, in a couple of weeks, either you're going to be there or Steve Cody will be there, and either one of the three people running for vice mayor will be there.
Correct.
Right. By the way, somebody asked me that we should be doing a debate. I said, well, why don't you do the debate?
Let's talk about that for a second before
Okay.
I go. I have sat there for the last 2 months asking Steve Cody to debate me. I've done it on Facebook. I've done it in emails. He will not debate me on any issues. And I think probably the reason he won't debate me is Steve Cody's never walked into the village of Palmetto Bay, as far as I know. He's never attended any meetings. He's never. He really. If you sit there and you actually know what's going on in Palmetto Bay and you listen to him talking with Grant, he really just does not have any comprehension of what's going on within the village. Not that he shouldn't have a right to run, but he should really understand what's going on in the village. And the fact of the matter is, you've never come to a meeting before. That's even worse, as far as I'm concerned.
So I just wanted to go over, just remind folks, you've probably been here 5 or 6 times. Steve Cody about 5 or 6 times. The mayor's been here once. Al John has been here one time. We invited him last week. He declined, and Ms. Tillman declined our offer. And also we had offered Marcia an opportunity to come here. Patrick's been here, more of not a political issue per se, but he talked about some of the charter amendments. All right. So in a week from now, all right, it'll be on the eve of the election. Yeah, it'll be on the eve of 168 hours, and then you're either going home or you're going back to City Hall.
I figure it this way: if I lose, I have more time to give to charity. Right? Somebody asked me the other day, or somebody sent something to me today, and I said, look, if I lose, I'll have less aggravation, and I'll be able to donate a lot more time to charities. I mean, there's always an upside to losing, right?
Yes. So,
by the way, I don't expect to lose.
Right. So, one of the things we know is I don't ever believe polls anymore. I used to believe in them. I don't believe in them at all. And when the reports came back 6 months ago about the COVID and the testing, then you started realizing the state was holding back. And then there were a couple 100,000 tests that got dumped on the market. What I believe is how many people are admitted daily to the hospitals, how many are there, and how many at ICU. Those are the real things, all right, that are 1 to 3 weeks after exposure. So I know everybody's a little stressed right now. I sort of get it, all right? But we have a new year that's around the corner, and some people get 2 New Years a year. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much.
And I know that everybody should be at peace, whatever they are on each side. I don't know how many sides there are, 4, 5, or 6, or 10 sides, all right? You should just calm your jets down. Don't make it a personal attack. Go after the issues, all right, at hand. Again, the things that you would like to bring forth, should you get reelected, what would let's go over.
Well, okay, so I mean, there's a bevy because we're not in the last 2 years has really seen a lot of problems in the village. So you still got the DUV. You have the fact of the matter is we're $2.6 million over a 2-year period of being in the hole in finances, which we're going to have to figure out how to fix that gap, or we're going to eat up all our reserves. The traffic situation is going to rear its ugly head again. So and the litigation. Right now, the litigation, on the FP&L property. I mean, those are the big 4 huge issues facing Palmetto Bay. I'm sure that nobody wants their taxes raised to cover, a 2.6. You take that 2.6 or $2.8 million deficit.
But some of the others today said, "Oh, that 2.6, that's really not the figure, and you're getting that."
No, that's absolutely a figure.
All right.
I would sign the financial statement to say that's the figure. Yeah.
Right. So. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I mean,
folks,
it was it's 800,000. They've already come out and said that's absolutely 800,000 for last fiscal year, and this fiscal year they said it's going to be $2 million.
So what can be done about that? I mean, everybody's experienced this COVID financial crisis, which really hasn't impacted us a lot yet, but it's in the works. So
I think what you got to do is start with zero-based budgeting. You have to say, okay, let's just wipe the slate clean. Luckily, it's going to be the new village manager who has to do this. And let's go individual by individual, role by role. Let's go park. Let's go and see if we can cut down prices. You need to sit there and start going and getting services bid out by 3 different companies. Again, what we do in our business is every 2 years we bid out all our services to make sure that we get the best service for the best price, and I don't think the Village of Palmetto Bay does that. So you have vendors who slowly but surely maybe creep up and charge you more and more and more. Well, you got to sit there and you got to rebid it to keep them honest.
So we know when we look at things, we say, what do we need to do to be able to keep down our costs? And sometimes, as you're saying, it's a little bit from here, a little bit from here, a little bit.
You're not going to take
just
big,
the way
large
it is.
swaths. It never is large swaths. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. And if you can talk to the vendors and take something down, $100,000 a year, it makes a big difference. It really does.
And if everybody does that,
you close the gap.
And look at
without raising taxes. By the way, they raised 3 different taxes this year.
In Palmetto Bay,
and they still have a $2 million deficit. 3 different taxes were raised.
So there were some folks that I saw on Facebook that said, "What is the problem? Why can't we just feel good about Palmetto Bay? It's a good place to live.
It's a great place to live."
All right, and so I sense there's still some people that want to be angry at other people. All right, but the reality is, in 168 plus another 24, all right, it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. And wherever that is, and I think the people you should right now start working on this recovery, all right, with the new people, because you're going to applaud each other. Isn't it great? Okay, and then the work begins.
The problems are not going to go away. I mean, the problems are there, no matter who's on the council. The idea is to put the best people on the council that can deal with those problems.
We got 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
All right. I want you to know, folks, that we just had Jeff Budd with some wonderful ribs. Forget that. Don't read that stuff up there. Some wonderful ribs. And starting next week, Tommy, who's our producer, is going to be part of the show when needed. He's going to have a camera on himself, all right, and a microphone that he'll be able to butt right in.
I want to do Tommy's job.
Yes.
Can I do that?
And also, we added a couple new windows in our studio.
I'll be like Ed McMahon.
You're gonna be the man, all right? And
is that too old of a joke to say?
Well,
Ed McMahon? I mean, people were
Well, I remember.
my age, we all remember,
Yes,
right? Johnny
okay,
Carson.
Right. So.
Actually, you know what?
And then anyway, Johnny would go like.
Yeah. I got to tell you something. My youngest son, my 12-year-old son, his middle name is Carson after Johnny Carson. I named him after Johnny Carson because I used to have such respect for Johnny Carson.
And how did you get your name?
David Singer?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
All right. You have a middle name?
Michael.
We're not. You know, it's funny. All right, because Grant's middle name is David, and
Yeah. There you go.
see, maybe we're.
We are.
Well,
we
I
could
know
be
somewhere back there.
brothers
we're-
from a different mother.
Yes,
That's what
I
they
know
say,
we're
right?
connected back
Yeah.
there if you go back far enough. All right, I think that's it.
That's
We're
it.
gonna wrap it up.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to watch the show.
Okay, folks, have a great day. And Tommy, thanks again, folks. Again, this is Live with Community Newspapers, and our guest today was the one and only David Singer. Folks, have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.